All right, so I'm gonna try to do a video. This is gonna be different than my other ones where it's more, I don't know, conversational a little bit, and kind of the process of how I work. My friend Yuki, who's an artist and fabulous, shout out, has been doing kind of educational videos lately, and I love them. Very nice, very nice. It's great to see kind of the artist perspective and thought process. So I'm going to do a little bit of that with this one. I was really hoping this would be done by now, but it's not. And what it's missing is it's a little flat, a little cartoony. And I think after talking to my husband, because he gives me advice and I love him for it, I think what it needs is a little more shadows and a little bit more shadows like off the page. Like maybe there's a tree somewhere over here. If you look, the light's kind of shining down. I've got these shadows in here from here. This is wisteria, and so it's casting a shadow on the wall. So the sun's pretty bright and pretty over kind of on the edge, shining down. So I need some of those dark shadows of maybe some trees or something kind of being cast, or a lamp post. I also have like not a lot of detail down here, which I need. It's just looking a little flat. And I want to do a little bit more with the door. I'm pretty happy with everything else. I think those are the areas that bother me. The back is also kind of faded and doesn't have a lot going on, but that doesn't bother me as much because it's the background, so we'll see. So I may speed this up in parts and pieces because I have no idea how long this is going to take me. But yeah, so we're going to just see how this goes. But I'm just going to kind of come in my Payne's gray here and just deepen some of these shadows. And I also tend to turn my paper. That's another problem that's really hard with videos is I don't tend to leave my paper in one direction. So to have it like just sitting like this the whole time is not my process. My process is this and this and this and this. It's always being turned and moved to where I can get to where I need to be in the angle that I want my hand the most. So we shall see. Like in here, like this is just more comfortable to get that shadow in. And I still want it just a little darker. So I'll be honest, I don't really know what I want to do here. I want to make it look like slate, and normally I would look up a picture on my phone, but guess what my recording device is? My phone. All right. So I want it to be like kind of big pieces of slate that are not all the same. When we were, so this is from Savannah for those who have not seen the, Doors of Savannah series. Wonder where that is. And in Savannah and actually Charleston has it even more. There's all these slate sidewalks that are really pretty. They get broken a lot. I don't like how similar those are. Let's make this one kind of maybe skinny. I feel like they should also not quite touch the brick wall. Maybe a little bit of space. That gives some of that green something to grow out of too, because you know how it's going to find spots and like grout and breaks apart a little bit. I think this line needs to come up. I don't even know if the camera is capturing my lines. Oh, it is. I peeked at it. But yeah, so Savannah and Charleston, more Charleston than Savannah, have lots of this kind of slate, and I just love how it looks. I don't know if I'm gonna like that section, but we'll see. Yeah, I just love how it looks, and it's always kind of like different sizes. Like maybe this one's gonna be a long skinny piece. And again, I'm not too worried about them being perfect. Kind of like the brick, your bricks are never like 100% perfect squares. They maybe are in some buildings, but these older buildings that have been worn, not as much. What do we think of this? I don't think I like my angle here. I think I want to angle these like this. So if you notice, I'm kind of changing the angle as if I had oh, art teacher brain, why are you failing me now? A vanishing point, a horizon point. So everything goes to that point. So everything kind of pulls you back to the door, so that this line goes kind of in. So I think like that. It looks a little more just, which is what I want. Is a technical term. And I think we're going to use the Payne's Gray because the Payne's Gray has a little more blue to it. And we'll just play with that. All right. This is one of my favorite watercolor brushes. He's pretty stiff. So I have a lot of control over him, which I like. I'll do this one first. God forbid I don't like this, because once we're painting with watercolor, we are in there. It is what it is. And I probably should have made those pencil lines lighter before I started, but you know what? It is what it is. And I did not, and I regret that choice. I hear you, little girl. My kid that came in. I can hear her over there. She gets her final, well, not her final meal today. She gets her dinner around this time. We have a robot butler that feeds her because she was chunky. Hey, get on my watercolor bin. Just trying to get in my stuff. She was a little on the chunky side, so we had to put her on a diet. And when she was on her diet, she did not like it and would complain and meow. And she's still on it, by the way. But she would give us such grief over it. So we found that if we bought one of those cat feeders that does it electronically, she would stop crying to us because she realized we were no longer the ones feeding her. I don't know how I feel about this right here where that comes down a little lower, but it's very organic. It's kind of what I'm going for. So I think I might be okay with it. We shall see. If I don't like it, there are some stuff I can do to change it, but we'll see. Anyway, enough about art, more about my cat. Listen. But seriously, we got that butler, as we call her. We call her the robot butler, but we got her a cat feeder, and now she doesn't complain to us for food. She waits for the butler to feed her, and most of the time after she gets her food, she comes in and says hi and checks out what I'm up to. So when she was fat, she still is. She's lost half of the weight she needed to lose, so she's on the thinner side now, but she's not quite to her goal weight. But when she was really fat, my husband, love you so much, Alex, would call her gordita. So, or yeah, gordita, because yeah. Am I thinking that right? Maybe. So I like gato in Spanish is cat. Gata is cat, but a female cat. Gagita is a little cat, a little female cat, like a kitten, and I would call her Gagita. And then my husband was like, no, she's a gorgita. That's what it was, gorgita. So rude. Calling her a fat cat. Not that he was wrong. He was not wrong. But still, so rude. Give a hint of lines. I don't know if I want to. I'm going to switch brushes. This is my teeny tiny brush. I love him. If you ever look at any of my pet portraits where it's fur, this is my brush. This is the brush I do for every little tiny fur stroke. So I've used Payne's Gray on all of this. So now I'm actually taking a little bit of black because I need it to stand out. Just watered down so it's not too dark. And I'm going around the edges. And what I'm basically trying to do is give a little hint of a ridge. Because I want it to look like, the stone's kind of set in there. But like, it's got lumps and bumps to it, right? Okay. I still have to make some more shadows, but I'm a little, I don't know, I'm just nervous. So I'm gonna play with the door some more first, and then I'll go in. I want the door, I think, to be darker. When I saw this door in Savannah, it was black. It was shiny. It was black, black, black. Almost as black as like the iron. And then the light would shine on it, and it had a little bit of like brightness where the light was, but it was still pretty dark. So I think I definitely need to go darker. However, I also kind of want to show that play of light. Like I really want this to stay light. So I'm going to try to put the darks in over here. And I'm going to do a mix of black and ivory black and Payne's gray. Because the Payne's gray is going to be like my shadow color, and it's going to help add more depth into just the black color. So first things first. We're going to wet my black down a little bit more. Get a little more juicy. I'm going to put black in and see my thoughts. I should be holding my brush a little further back too, but I can feel that my brush is like starting to get a little wiggly, where the water has kind of started to eat away at the glue on my brush. It's a good brush. It's just I have had a few instances where I was working and I went off to do something and I completely forgot to take my brush out of the water. So it sat in the water overnight. Don't do that. It's just not good on your brushes. And so, oh, see, I like that. I like this bright spot here. So what happens over time when you do that is the glue in the brush will start breaking down because the water kind of seeps in and like moisture sits in here. And yeah, it's just not good on your brush. So don't do that. But yeah, that's what will cause it to start breaking and getting wiggly and stuff. You can fix it when it like breaks. You can glue it back together. But I mean, in general, you've, damaged the integrity of the brush. So I'm so sorry, my little friend. Yeah. Listen, I never said I was perfect, okay? If anybody claims to be perfect, run in the other direction because humanity is not. This is not philosophy hour. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry if you ever get a little shot of my face in here. I like to like get into my painting sometimes. I'm like down close, like, hey, hi painting. How you doing? Just all up in you. Starting to really get the dark that I was going for. I'm still just using black. Haven't pulled in Payne's gray yet because I'm kind of getting what I want for the most part. I'm also working my paper over and over again. And as I do that, it needs to dry fully or it won't take the paint. It'll just kind of move the paint around on the brush and on the paper. So it gets to a point where you have to just let it dry. I'm not good at that. That's that patience thing, guys. Talked about that. I can do it. I just don't want to. I will pull out a blow dryer sometimes and just blow dry it real quick so I can continue. Yeah, it's nice and dark. I still like this light, but I think I need to do more blending to work it down. But again, I'm trying to like not overwork my paper while it's wet. You can also rip your paper with overworking. I'm not to that level of overworking yet. I can see some of the fibers, so I might be getting kind of close to that. What you have to do at that point, that's where like your paper just needs you to leave it alone to fully dry. And so when I do these quick brush strokes and I like drag my brush more times, that's going to cause more of that. Like really great watercolor artists will just flow it in one beautiful brush stroke. I am not a great watercolor artist. I'm not terrible. I'm just, I'm here. I'm living my life. I'm doing the thing. I'm making stuff. So yeah, but really good ones will just whoosh and it'll be beautiful. This is the sign that I was originally an acrylic artist because acrylic artists can go back and forth as much as they want and it doesn't matter. But yeah, with watercolor, you really need to be careful the more you do this back and forth stroke, which I'm not actually touching the paper in case you can't see from that angle, but yeah, the more you do that back and forth stroke, the more you rough up the paper, water, paper, eventually you can actually like pull the grains up on the paper. And yeah, it's just a bad time. Don't do that. So that's something that I struggle with as originally being trained as an acrylic artist and an oil artist. That's what I started with. Actually, my very first thing was drawing. Yeah, I did drawing, then moved into the painting mediums, and the last thing I actually learned was watercolor, but it's probably the thing I really like love the most. Why? I don't know. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna let my door dry, even though I really want to touch him more. We're gonna ignore him. He does not exist for a minute. He's definitely darker, definitely more beautiful, definitely really hard to see the door handle and the lock. I don't know if I care because they're not that important to me. What's really important to me is this and this light spot down here. I really like the light spot. I think I need to either fade it in more or like maybe have more blotchy areas or something so it looks like leaves are causing it or something's causing it versus the door being weathered or unfinished. So I'll have to make sure it doesn't look out of place, which we'll figure out. Yeah, we'll get there. So now I need to figure out some more shading that I can do. Like, is there a tree? Is there a bush? Do I need like this tree line and leaves? I'm not color on it. There, cleaned it off. But yeah, I need something in this brick area. And I just don't know what I want that to be. Brr. I don't like the not knowing. It's so much easier when I have like a game plan and can just work it. Let's just play. I think this is also why it's easier to use a reference photo for me because I can copy and paste it versus like the guessing, like, is this gonna look okay? Is this gonna be right? So with this particular project, it's a little different than the first one I did. So the first one I did was one picture and I tweaked it a bit, but for the most part, I just worked off that picture. And what it was I made the two sides more even, more like mirroring each other. So it was more about the door itself because technically the first one I did, if you guys remember, or even if you haven't seen it, let me just explain it real quick. But it was a door and it had steps and then there were two windows on each side. And those are actually slightly different houses. And so the coloring was different and it was slightly different, but only slightly. So I decided to just copy and paste and make them the same. And then really like had fun with the door. It was one of my favorites, but I really just followed the picture for the most part. This one actually is a compilation of pictures. What's behind the door here was actually from one photo I took in Savannah. This door was from another photo I took in Savannah. This was from a photo I took in Savannah. This was from a photo. That's from a separate photo. These are from a different photo. I made this up, as you guys have been here to see. So this is like a bunch of these back gate areas combined into one. And this is one of the doors or gates, you could call it if you would prefer. I call it a door just because it goes with my theme of Doors of Savannah. But this gate door leads into a garden that would be behind the house. So say there's a house, the house could be over here, and then this would be like their garden, and they wall it in so it's privacy because all the houses in Savannah are kind of close together, and so they would want to create this privacy. Plus they love, the plants and the architecture and everything, so having this wall is also kind of fancy and nice. And a lot of cast iron was how they showed they were rich, so that's where you have the cast iron in the door. There were a lot of cast iron gates instead of doors, and I actually have some pictures of those that I really liked. But what I found was that I would like the gate, but I would never like what was behind the gate. So I'm like, this gate's like such a beautiful gate, and then it was like their trash cans and a walkway, and it just wasn't that pretty. So instead, I took some of those pictures and I turned them into this. Now, I said that so dramatically, I'm sorry. So I do think I will eventually do more, and I will do another one of these where I like take the gate but put a pretty garden behind it, since, you know, I just didn't have a pretty garden originally. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't not like this. I just don't know what else to do or where else to go. So that's where I'm kind of playing with some other things and just adding some general like shading to the wall. Because it could also be a little beat up too. I think maybe my wall was too perfect. So this gives me a little something. It definitely looks better. I can see more realism in this than like this side, which is still not bad, just a little bit more. And some of it too is when you have pen and ink watercolor and it's this kind of style, you are going to get a little bit of a cartoony feel, or I call it illustrative. But I'm really good at illustrative, but I would prefer a little more realism. It's interesting as an artist because a lot of times you have a style, and sometimes you don't always like your particular style. You want your style to look like somebody else's style, but that's not reality. Reality is this is what you do and this is what you're really good at. And instead of fighting what you are good at, you should embrace it. Because, you know, the artists that you admire and love, and you love their work, you know, they already exist. They are already out there. They're already creating, and their work is beautiful, and you love it, and it's amazing. But you don't need to be them. The pep talk I'm giving myself, just FYI. But you don't. You need to be you, and you need to create stuff that other people can't create, because this is like your thing. And I'm not saying nobody else can make this, because, I mean, listen, I'm not that fabulous. But the point I'm trying to make is to embrace yourself and what you can do, and don't hold yourself to other people's artistic abilities. Admire them, enjoy them, but be you. So that is advice I'm giving you guys, but also advice that I am working on taking. So we're running amok. Also, there wouldn't be as many shadows here because remember that my light's coming this way. So what would be casting a shadow here? You would need to be something, you know, something here. And I don't have anything here. I guess there could be a tree, but if there's a tree, then there would be a lot of shadows. So, you know, gotta think it through a little bit. So I dark in that corner, so I lost that highlight-ish. It's like slightly there, but it's not really anymore. What I'm gonna do, this is my Payne's Gray. I'm gonna take my Payne's Gray, and I'm just gonna kind of like dabble him in here and have him make a shadow for me. Yeah, I like that. Cool. I think I like my door. I don't know. What do you guys think? Gosh, you're so bad at like telling me your opinion. Just kidding. Just, you know, I talk and you guys don't talk back. Do I need more on these guys? Get my little brush out. Take a little black. Let's do a little Payne's Gray and black mix. So these were good before, but now that I'm adding this little bit more black and Payne's Gray mix, and like just sticking the color on and kind of moving it around to get these kind of blotches and cracks and crevices and, you know, texture to it. I really like it. It just took it from like, those are nice, to like, oh, okay. Still not sure how I feel about my grout area yet, the in-between spaces. But I'm definitely feeling the stones themselves a lot more. I honestly probably just need to darken the grout just a little. I just don't want to over darken the grout, because if you over darken it, then I lose the detail in my stones, and then I have to add a second coat to this, or a fourth, fourth coat to the stones. So, okay, really like the slate. We definitely got somewhere with the slate. Yeah, and I like these guys better with that extra shadow there. That's beautiful. Beautiful. I definitely feel like this is the focus. That's behind. Yeah. So now the question is the grout. How do we feel about it? I think it's too even. I'm actually going to take a little brown, I think. A little brown, a little bit of black maybe, just so it's like dark. Let's just get that in there. Kind of like how I did with the brick, where it's not always the same tone. Well, it's the same tone, sorry. Not always the same value. Like some is lighter, some is darker, because I'm not being uber particular about it. Because it's dirt, right? Well, it's grout, I think. Do you put grout in between slate? You put something. It's like a grout, right? Guys, I don't know. I don't know. I don't do this stuff. I paint. I don't grout. Or whatever. Yeah, so it's whatever they lay down and put the bricks like into. I think it's grout. Correct me, please. I'm not gonna be upset about it. Please correct me if I am wrong. If you like lay stonework or anything, if you're a mason for like gardens and stuff, that's what I'm talking about, or outdoor, or even I think you can be a mason inside and outside. I don't know. Listen, I should stop talking because I'm gonna make myself more and more wrong. But point is, feel free to come at me. Tell me what I'm wrong. I don't mind. I like to learn. If I don't know, I can't fix it. I can't learn. I can't grow. Anyway, but yeah, so this isn't always like perfectly even. Dirt gets in there, it's outside. People walk on it. So I feel like having that brown and have it darker and with different, values, lighter and darker areas, and just kind of scuffed up is definitely more realistic than just like perfectly laid. Yes, guys, we might be close to being done. I like how you're incorporated. Just FYI, you have totally painted this with me. We are one. You can claim this. No, you can't. You can claim that you watched it. That's all I got. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think I'm done. I already signed it because I like to sign it in pen and ink. I think I can see my signature pretty well. I keep bumping the table. Sorry if this thing's wiggling. But yeah, I think we did it. 10 out of 10, guys. Wow. Ignore my poor sad finger. All right. Have a great rest of your day.